He sits back in his chair and he crosses his arms and he chuckles and he says, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
It doesn't matter what you fly, what you'd like to see fly. If you just like airplanes, you're welcome here. That goes back to Paul Poberezny when he founded it. He said, who do we tell not to come? Who do we say they're not welcome here?
At any given day, we have 400 plus weather briefings being refreshed.
Coming to you from a hangar somewhere near the flight line, where we can almost see the conga line for AirVenture forming from here. This is the Future in Flight podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Staerker, and today's episode is an excellent one. It's one of those flights where you buckle in and you're not really sure where you're going to land, but you know it's going to be a ride worth taking. We're sitting down with a guy who played fiddle on Prairie Home Companion at 12, ran away to Branson at 16, got told by his own principal he'd never amount to anything in the music business, and then went and built a music career anyway. His name is Nick Hoffman, and if you've ever been told no by somebody who was supposed to be in your corner, stick around because this one's for you. Then, we're taking you to Oshkosh, Wisconsin for a preview of AirVenture 2026 with EAA's Dick Knapinski and our friend Jacob Peed from AviNation. And we'll talk about how this becomes the world's busiest airport for 1 week only. And we'll wrap it up with a new product spotlight on a tool that might just change how you make your next go or no-go call. So grab that side and let's pull these hangar doors open. Now, we're pulling back the hangar doors on a life that reads like a really great novel. Picture this. A kid from Minnesota grows up building model airplanes with his dad, camping at Oshkosh every summer, sneaking into the cockpit of his uncle's home-built biplane down in the basement, just a pipe frame and a fighter pilot stick, and pretending he's in Top Gun. That kid grew up to play fiddle on Prairie Home Companion at age 12, run away to Branson at age 16, land a record deal on Warner Brothers, tour with Kenny Chesney, launch an 11-season TV show, and write a fantastic song about the freedom of flight called Runways, Wings, and Gasoline. His name is Nick Hoffman. You may know him from Nick's Wild Ride on the Outdoor Channel. And today, he's here to talk about one of his favorite wild rides, the one up in the air. Nick grew up the way a lot of us did. Aviation wasn't a career path. His uncle was building a biplane in the basement. His dad was deep into RC planes. And every year, the family loaded up the motorhome and made the pilgrimage to Oshkosh.
From my earliest memories, he was building a biplane in his basement. And so I remember my cousin and I would go down there and get in the fuselage, which was just pipe at the time, and it had the stick in there, and the stick had a fighter pilot style handle on it. And man, Tim and I would get in there, a tandem, and pretend that we were in Top Gun.
That uncle, that basement, that pipe frame cockpit, that's where it started. And Oshkosh, that's where it got real. At about 11 or 12 years old, Nick talked a stranger into taking him up in a Moonie, walked away with a Young Eagle certificate, and a feeling he's been chasing ever since. Now here's where Nick's story takes a turn that everybody should hear. Nick was a teenager with a bluegrass band, nearly straight A's, and a principal who didn't like his type. When Nick missed a few days of school to play gigs, with his teacher's blessing, that principal called him in and told him something that could have changed everything.
He sits back in his chair and he crosses his arms and he chuckles and he says, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." That's a quote. He said, "You will never amount to anything as a musician, ever. You need to give up on that dream right now."
Nick didn't give up. He hopped a Greyhound bus to Branson, Missouri, slept on a park bench, pulled himself up, and built a career. Relationships made in Branson led to Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney led to a record deal. The record deal led to radio singles. And in the liner notes of his Warner Brothers album, right at the very end, he thanked Dr. Dean Souter, the principal who told him he'd never make it, for giving him something to prove. That isn't just a great story, it's a blueprint, because the same fuel that got Nick to Branson is the same fuel that eventually got him in the air.
Every chapter of my life has absolutely got a contingent of, I'm just not taking no for an answer. I believe if you want something bad enough, you will figure it out. It might take you 10 years, but you will figure it out if you have the drive and the fortitude to do it.
When Nick was ready to learn to fly, he didn't have a pile of cash. He had something better. He had hustle. He bartered his time at Crystal Skyways, a flight school in Crystal, Minnesota. He pumped gas, wiped planes down, helped a mechanic. His weekend band gig paid the bills. His weekday work at the flight school paid for his training in hours, not dollars. And his favorite perk? Every time there was an oil change, he got to fly a short pattern lap to warm up the engine. Free hours, free sky. Now that's magic. Today, Nick flies a Glass Air Sportsman 2+2, a high-wing experimental with a fiberglass fuselage, serious backcountry capability, and stolt performance that'll get you into the same short strips that Super Cubs and bush planes use. Yellow body with black wingtips. He calls it Pikachu. Of course he does. But it's not just what Nick flies, it's why he flies. And this is the part that I can really identify with.
I have a really busy brain, but I will fly for 3-4 hours and land and then realize that I never thought about my phone. I never thought about a text. I never thought about the girl that I just broke up with or the money in my bank account. I don't think about anything other than flying. And the same thing goes for hunting, fishing, and anything to do with the outdoors. All of those hobbies I now know are similar in that while you're doing them, you can't think about anything else. For aviation, it's a spiritual thing for me.
That's one thing nobody puts in the brochure. Flying isn't just transportation. It's not just a career path. For a lot of us, and for Nick, it's the one place the noise goes quiet. Nick wrote about that feeling in his song Runways, Wings, and Gasoline, born out of a socially distanced writing session at a grass strip in Wisconsin during COVID. The line that says it all? Up there, I'm truly free, as close to God as I can be. And from a practical standpoint, Nick will tell you that general aviation is also one of the greatest time machines on Earth. A 3-hour drive through winding back roads becomes 90 minutes point to point. Leave this morning, be back tonight. That's not a luxury, that's a life upgrade.
1000 until established. Cleared ILS, 23 right approach, maintain 170 knots.
Now, here's something Nick and I talked about that doesn't get enough airtime, no pun intended. When you're flying a fiberglass experimental with a high-performance engine on the nose and zero soundproofing on the walls, your cockpit is loud. And loud cockpits mean fatigue. They mean missed radio calls. They mean landing feeling like you went 3 rounds with a leaf blower. Nick has spent decades in loud environments, concert stages, hunting blinds, outdoor shoots, and he's dealt with real hearing loss because of it. So when it comes to his headset, he doesn't mess around. He flies with the Lightspeed Delta Zulu, and what sold him wasn't just the noise cancellation. It was something a lot more personal.
Delta Zulu is so cool is because of the EQ technology that it has where you can customize what you hear for your ears. And that's a game changer for me because I'm able to go into the app and dial up the high end a little bit for me so that I can hear it better. It does a little hearing test for you. It literally tell me when you can't hear this anymore, just like you would at an audiologist. That was a before and after kind of moment for me. I'm like, oh, where has this been all my life? It was finally the first time that I felt like I could really hear in the airplane.
A headset that runs a hearing test and tunes itself to your ears. For a musician who spent a career protecting what hearing he has left, that's not a feature. That's a game changer. And it's not just about hearing loss. It's about long flights and what happens to your focus and your sharpness when you've had a sustained tone sitting in your ears for hours.
For long flights, for those things, that when you've got this thing tailored for your ears and your comfort zone, it really does make a difference. Can you fly without them? Sure, absolutely. Will your experience be enhanced by it? And in some cases safer because you can hear that radio just that much better? Absolutely. And the big thing is fatigue.
Nick's been a Lightspeed customer since his very first headset in flight training. That kind of loyalty says something. The Delta Zulu is their flagship active noise reduction headset, and if you want to hear what the difference feels like for yourself, check out Lightspeed Aviation at lightspeedaviation.com. Link is in the show notes. Your ears are going to log a lot of hours. Protect them early and protect them well. We asked Nick one last thing before we let him go flying, which he absolutely did that same afternoon. We asked him how he keeps moving forward, keeps building new projects, keeps saying yes when he could easily coast.
I've actually been writing a book called The Deathbed Mentality, and it's all about trying to live your life through the lens of how are you going to feel about it on your deathbed. My grandfathers both had a lot of regret, so when I make decisions, should I mow the grass or should I go fly? The deathbed mentality says, on my deathbed, I will wish I mowed less grass and flew more. That is a guaranteed fact. So go fly now while you got the chance.
Go fly now while you've got the chance. I don't know what else to add to that. Nick Hoffman started in a basement biplane that never left the ground, played fiddle for Garrison Keillor at 12, slept on a park bench in Missouri at 16, and turned every hard no into rocket fuel. He's got a TV show on the Outdoor Channel, a new aviation travel series called Runways in production, and more than 750 hours in the logbook, with a sportsman named Pikachu and a to-do list that includes flying himself in and out of a backcountry elk hunt solo. That's the kind of life aviation makes possible, not just as a career, as a philosophy. Find Nick at Nick's Wild Ride on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And find Lightspeed Aviation at lightspeedaviation.com. All the links are down in the show notes. Stick around because there's a lot more runway ahead here on the Future in Flight podcast.
When I was 17, my feet finally left the ground. I went to church up in the air, and I felt like I've been found. There's just something about the sky, the way it makes me feel alive. Up there I'm truly free, as close to God as I can be. Runways, wings, and gasoline.
This episode of the Future in Flight podcast is brought to you by Lightspeed Aviation. Since 1996, Lightspeed Aviation has been building the headsets pilots trust to protect their hearing and their focus in the cockpit. Like the Lightspeed Delta Zulu, with a hearing profile that tunes itself to your ears and built-in carbon monoxide detection that can flag a danger you'd never hear coming. And Lightspeed Aviation doesn't just build gear, they help build pilots, backing programs like EAA Young Eagles to get the next generation into the sky. Find your next headset at lightspeedaviation.com. Links down in the show notes. Let me set the scene for you. It's early Monday morning. The Wisconsin sun is just cracking over Lake Winnebago. You're rolling down Highway 44, and then you come up over the overpass, and you see it. Rows and rows of airplanes, tents, people, as far as you can see. That's Oshkosh. Every year for over 7 decades, pilots, builders, dreamers, and first-timers have converged on Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin for what the Experimental Aircraft Association calls AirVenture. And we're talking about the world's greatest aviation celebration. Not our words. Well, okay, our words too. But ask anyone who's ever been and they'll back us up. I sat down recently with a man who arguably knows this event better than anyone. Dick Knapinski, Director of Communications for EAA. He's been at it since 1992. He's seen everything. And joining us in the conversation, our partner here at the Future in Flight podcast and editor-in-chief of AviNation Magazine, Jacob Peed. We started with the big question: what makes AirVenture the world's greatest aviation celebration?
It really is the people. The people come together, and it doesn't matter what you fly, what you'd like to see fly, what you've dreamed of flying. If you've ever flown anything, if you're a pilot, if you just like airplanes, you're welcome here. That goes back to Paul Poberezny when he founded it. He had a great line. He said, who do we tell not to come? Who do we say they're not welcome here? And really, that is the genesis of where it all comes together.
That spirit of radical welcome, it's baked into the DNA of EAA, and it shows up everywhere. From the ultralights landing on the south end to the business jets parked near the FBO to the home builds that took someone 5 to 10 years to finish. All of them land at the same airport. All of them belong. And Jacob, he's been going for years. He put it this way.
It's the industry family reunion. It's actually the family reunion you look forward to going to and have really no regrets about usually when you come home. It's all in good cheer because everybody's there for the same passion, same reasons. It is the greatest celebration of aviation on this planet.
All aircraft joining the procedure today. We're joining the procedure at Parkaway Lake. Parkaway Lake. Find somebody to follow.
Now, for anybody who hasn't made the trip yet, let's talk about what actually happens at AirVenture. Because saying it's an air show is like saying the Grand Canyon is a hole. Technically true, wildly underselling it. During AirVenture Week, Whitman Regional becomes the busiest airport in the world. We're talking Cessna 172s lining up behind F-16s, home builds, warbirds, ultralights, business jets, all sharing the pattern. Dick describes it like this.
When we become the world's busiest airport, it's not like O'Hare where you've got 737, Airbus 350, and so on and so forth coming through. You'll have a Piper Cub, 172. Oh, that's an F-16. There's a corporate jet. Oh, yeah, there's a C-5. Okay, and then, oh, yeah, there's a Tri-Pacer coming in. And these things will all come in at the same time. And that's what makes it so fabulous.
And it's not just the landings. Inside the grounds, you've got forums, workshops, manufacturers showing off the latest avionics, vintage aircraft you'd expect to see in a museum, and some very unique experiences that only exist at AirVenture. Want to ride around Oshkosh in a Ford Tri-Motor? The height of airline luxury in 1929? You can do that. Want to hop in a Bell 47 helicopter with the door off and buzz around the grounds? Done. Dick told us they've only lost one cell phone in the history of that program, which honestly seems like a miracle. And to those standing on the ground watching the Bell 47 helicopters constantly whirring around the campground, it almost feels like we're an extra inside of MASH. And here's the part that matters a great deal to us on this podcast, the youth programs. Because AirVenture isn't just a celebration of aviation history, it's an investment in aviation's future. It's called KidVenture, and it's been growing for about 30 years.
Kids are flying simulators. They're learning about riveting. If they hit all the stations, the older ones can get their own toolkit that has been donated. They can learn about the Tuskegee Airmen from the Red Tail Squadron. All of these things come together from companies such as Pratt & Whitney that are on the site there, and then they become part of it. So these kids learn that it's not just piloting. There are all these things. If you like working with your hands, if you like taking things apart, as many kids do, there's a spot in aviation for you.
Last year, close to 25,000 people came through KidVenture during the 7-day event. 25,000. And admission for anyone 18 and under to AirVenture, it's free, thanks in large part to Boeing's support. Paul Poberezny, the founder of EAA, used to call it planting seeds. He said, not every seed is going to sprout, but it's the organization's job to go out and plant them. Dick carries that mission personally. He told me about a kid named Chad Spellman, who used to come to the fly-in every year growing up. Chad joined the Navy, became a pilot, and 1 year he flew back to Oshkosh with 3 buddies in a 4-ship formation. They made 2 passes. His 3 buddies broke off, and then Chad came in alone, landed, and taxied into Boeing Plaza, where his mom was waiting in an orange vest and paddles to bring him in. He had no idea. That's what planting seeds does. And the future of aviation at Oshkosh isn't just for the kids who already know they love planes. It's also for the ones standing at the fence, watching, thinking, could I actually do that? That's what the Learn to Fly Center is for. You walk in, you meet flight instructors, you get on a simulator, you get a model lesson. You start asking the questions you've always been afraid to ask. Dick said something about this that I want you to hear directly, because this one's for you.
It's like any machine. It's like a car, a riding lawnmower, a boat, a motorcycle. It's a machine, except it has a third dimension to it that you have to understand. But once you understand the machine, as Bob Hoover once said, a well-maintained airplane and a well-trained pilot is a perfectly safe operation. And so that's true with anything. So you learn to respect the machine, you learn to operate the machine properly, and you learn the conditions, your limitations, and the machine's limitations, and you don't surpass them.
And Jacob, who's seen a lot of aviation events, had some advice for anyone planning to make the trip to Oshkosh for the first time.
The plane spotting, the landings is something that everybody that I've ever talked to there enjoys. And it happens all week long, so you don't have to be there at a certain time to see this. It's just crazy to see the arrivals, and that symphony orchestra of its own is just amazing. And people who aren't interested in flying are there watching the planes take off and land, and you can't see that anywhere else.
AirVenture 2026 runs July 21st through the 27th at Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. There are forums, workshops, night air shows, the pedal plane parade, Women Venture, KidVenture, the Learn to Fly Center, and enough airplanes to make your head spin for a week straight. If you've never been, go. If you've been before, go again. Because as Dick said, nobody has walked out of AirVenture saying it was smaller than they expected. For more on EAA and AirVenture 2026, head to EAA.org and follow AviNation Magazine. That's Jacob Pete and the crew for the stories that come out of events like this all year long. To Dick and Jacob, we're looking forward to seeing you both at AirVenture real soon.
The end of the line right now is at Parkaway Lake. We're joining the procedure at Parkaway Lake. Parkaway Lake.
The Future in Flight podcast and our friends at AviNation are bringing something revolutionary to AirVenture 2026. The AviNation and Future in Flight podcast Story Stop is an exciting, interactive experience featuring all your favorite aviation creators and friends. Details coming soon. You know, one of the things nobody tells you when you start flying is that the hardest part isn't the takeoff or the landing. It's the decision before you ever leave the ground. Go or no go. And that call, that's on you. No dispatcher, no co-pilot to consult. Just you, the weather, and everything riding on the right answer. Today we're shining the new product spotlight on a tool that was built by a pilot, for pilots, to make that decision process a whole lot smarter. Meet Mark Wolfgang, Navy vet, IT security entrepreneur, surfer, and as of just under 2 years ago, a licensed pilot with a serious need for better weather intelligence. Mark got his private pilot certificate and immediately started flying. A lot. Within 2 years, he'd logged nearly 1,000 hours. And pretty quickly, he ran into the same wall every GA pilot hits. The weather briefing tools we have are great at telling you right now, but not so great at telling you about Friday when you've already booked the hotel. Mark's background was IT risk management, 22 years of it. So when he saw a risk, he went looking for a solution.
I started taking that area forecast discussion and just saying, I'm flying from Bentonville, Arkansas to Fremont, Nebraska on Sunday in this plane. What are the chances that I'm going to be able to make this flight? Language. I'm not a meteorologist and AI is not, but it certainly understands this. So light bulb went off in my head.
That light bulb became PlaneWX, and Mark built it himself using AI-assisted coding tools. He put in 7-day weeks for months. His wife actually had to remind him he hadn't left the apartment in 2.5 weeks. The result? A pilot decision support system that does something no other tool does quite like this. It takes the raw area forecast discussions published by weather forecast offices around the country, over 130 of them, synthesizes them with AI, factors in your aircraft's capabilities and your personal minimums, and gives you a single numerical WX score for your flight, days in advance.
It's not just weather. So when we put together a weather briefing and present a WX score, which is a numerical score, it considers the weather, but then it factors in the aircraft capabilities and the pilot's personal minimums and tolerances. You can put in a trip up to 2 weeks out, and it will refresh your briefing as new weather products come out.
Now here's where this gets really practical. We all know that feeling. You've got a trip planned, you've got friends coming in, you've got hotel rooms, event tickets, all of it lined up, and you're waiting until the night before to look at the TAF. That's not a great situation for good decision making. PlaneWX flips the script. It monitors your upcoming trips and sends you email updates as conditions evolve. And here's the part that I think is genius. It can notify your passengers too, so everyone's in the loop days before Wheels Up.
I wanted to provide pilots with as much notice as possible so they could have that conversation with their friends and say, hey, it's Monday and we're going on a flight Friday. You can start the conversation. Not only that, we have a way where you can have those that are accompanying you on your flight get these email alerts as well. And the whole point is to get the conversation started of, hey guys, we might have to rent a car, or we might have to go on Thursday, or we might have to fly commercial, to remove some of that pressure from the pilots.
PlaneWX also integrates the FAA's PAVE framework. That's a flight risk assessment tool that helps you evaluate the pilot, aircraft, environment, and external pressures before a flight. And if you're still on the fence after the briefing and self-assessment, there's a mentor matchmaking feature built right in, connecting you with experienced pilots who volunteered to talk through your flight with you. Real pilots, real advice, in real time. Mark showed me how one of his users, a newly licensed private pilot flying an SR-22, used the mentor network to get a second set of eyes before a cross-country in marginal conditions. Somebody stepped up within minutes to review the briefing and talk it through. That's the aviation community doing what it does best. PlaneWX is live. It's free to start, and it's already got over 1,300 users, including more than 100 ATP-rated pilots and jet operators, with a 73% daily email open rate. That's not a vanity stat. That's people actually using the briefings.
We've grown to over 1,300 users in a few months, and at any given day, we have 400 plus weather briefings being refreshed. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. My community holds me to a really high standard, which is great because I hold myself to a really high standard as well. And I want to provide the most accurate and useful product that, as a pilot, you just can't live without.
You can sign up for a free trial, and there's a completely free tier available too at planewx.ai. We'll put that link in the show notes. Mark and his wife Sarah will be at Oshkosh this year, meeting users. And if you're flying into Oshkosh, keep an eye out for PlaneWX in your pilot bag. They're a sponsor this year. And that's been the New Product Spotlight. And that's a wrap on today's show. We heard from Nick Hoffman about turning every hard no into rocket fuel, and about a deathbed mentality that says fly more, mow the grass less. We got a preview of AirVenture 2026 from Dick Knapinski. And mark your calendars, July 21st through the 27th at Whitman Regional in Oshkosh. It's gonna be epic. We broke down PlaneWX, a tool built by a pilot, for pilots, to make that go, no-go decision a whole lot smarter, days before Wheels Up. Before we taxi off today, a big thank you to Lightspeed Aviation for supporting this episode. If you heard Nick talk about how the Lightspeed Delta Zulu changed the way he hears in the cockpit, that EQ technology that actually tunes itself to your ears, that's the real deal. And it's exactly why Lightspeed Aviation has been such a big part of the show since day one. Your ears are going to log a lot of hours in this hobby. Protect them early, protect them well. Check them out at lightspeedaviation.com. Links down in the show notes. And here's my ask. If this show's helping you chase whatever's pulling you toward the sky, whether that's a certificate, a career, or just watching some mass arrivals at AirVenture, do me a favor. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review. It genuinely helps others find this show, and it means the world to us over here. Thank you for spending this time with us today. Thanks for believing that a kid with a dream and a little bit of hustle can still go build a life in the air. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon. We'll see you out there and up there.